Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the first post-race Chinwag of 2023. And just to make a point, I decided to be 3 minutes early. Roll intro. 3D logo. Spin, spin, spin. Lovely jubbly. Thank you all for coming. Appreciate you all taking the time. And it's here. It's got really cold in England again. It's going to be like -3 later tonight. So we'll probably have another flood. Because we've had we've had a leak in this house and we had a flood during the World Cup final. During the penalty shootout, the kitchen was flooding. And something's probably going to happen again. So, fuming. But yeah, I know, right? Exclusive early Tommo. You don't get this very often, you know. But you know what? I thought I'd treat you today. Thank you all for coming. Good Monday to you all, isn't it? It is the Monday, the day after the first Grand Prix of 2023. Hello, Dime. Good shout out, Dime. Check out Dime's YouTube channel. Dime's top tier. Chiopaz, Hermanth, Amy, Fabio, Pankin, Formula 101, Ryan, two Ryans, George, Marcel, Will, Bastian, Tommy, Shanky, Sam, RLG, Jozo, Toby, Mark, Rick, Kanchan, Julian, Sam, Ethan, Jaren, Razan, Drive and Desire NJ, and everyone else who's watching this after the fact, or if you're listening in your ears. For once, I actually remembered to record this in OBS as well, so then I can upload the MP3 audio only to the Tommo's Race Chinwag audio channels straight after. So if you like podcasts, if you don't want to listen to this one live, if you can't be asked to look at me, then try that. All right, give that one a go. This one's not sponsored by Squarespace ever yet. Maybe one day. But yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about round one, Bahrain Grand Prix. First of all, I want to get a race rating out there. What are we saying out of 10? Thank you. I'm glad you like the hat, not me. What are we saying race rating out of 10 for this Grand Prix? 5 being bang average. So 5 being not good, not bad. Slap bang in the middle. 10 being an absolute worldie. And 1 being an absolute shocker. It was a lot of 7s. Some 6s. I'm seeing 5s and 8. Okay, I'm gonna try. What I'm gonna do. So race rating out of 10. I'm gonna do a poll based off the numbers I'm seeing most. So race rating out of 10. So we're gonna go with. I think we'll do 8 or more. We'll do 7. We'll do 6. We'll do 5 or less. YouTube, please add more options on your polls, please. There we go. 10 options. I reckon up to 10. That would be great if YouTube could incorporate that. Also, YouTube needs to start doing something about these Telegram spams. If you've seen a channel or channels claiming to be me offering you some prize on Telegram, it's nonsense. It's just scam. I've told YouTube multiple times. I've reported the accounts multiple times, and nothing's happening. So, cheers, YouTube. Appreciate it. Thanks. Really helpful. You will only hear from me from my official accounts, okay? If you're gonna ever hear from me. But yeah, what we're saying, right? What are we looking at? 476 of you have voted, and 45% of you have gone for a 7 out of 10. 15% 8 or more. 30% 6 and 10% 5 or less. Yeah, it does very much depend, as Harry says, whether you're a McLaren fan or whether you're a Fernando Alonso / Aston Martin fan, as I just spit all over my laptop. Lovely. Because the thing is, right, yeah, there's a reluctance, especially, I think it's a very British thing, right, to call something that's average a 7. No, average is 5. Average, that's bang in the middle. 7's like a good race. Okay, so I think, yeah, it does somewhat depend on where your allegiances lie, which is fair enough. So you're going for a 7 by the looks of it. It looks like the average is maybe just below somewhere between a 7 and a 6, because 46% now of you have gone for 7. For me, it's a 6. It was one of those races that, you know, we didn't get a scrap at the front. There wasn't that much in terms of, obviously you had Charles pulling over, which we'll get into, but there wasn't that in terms of kind of stress and anxiety around, things changing up, safety cars, maddening up strategies. I know it did help some teams more than others, but I think a 6 is fair. I think it gets, to be honest, like as a race as a whole, if you took the names away, if you took the names of all the drivers away and just looked at it as a race, I think it's a 5. But because of the story of Alonso moving through the field, also Gasly moving through the field from P20 to P9 as well, that story of Alonso, if that was Max Verstappen driving through the field, or if that was, I don't know, if that was a Mercedes doing what Alonso did, it wouldn't have been anywhere near as exciting. Let's be honest, because it's the story of Aston Martin, it's the story of Alonso, it's the story of, was it all gas? Was it all hot air? Because teams have turned up to testing before and not delivered in the races yet. And I watched Ted's notebook, and he was saying that it went exactly as testing suggested. Red Bulls at the front, Alonso following up behind, and that's how it ended. What a podium that is as well, though. To be fair, that is a vibey. Look at Checo's face as well. You can zoom in. You can just look closely at the screen. He's proper like going for it in that picture that I've selected. But I think I think it's a 6 because of the story. I think if you take that story away, it's probably a 5, to be honest. Wasn't an absolute worldie. As Bahrain goes, it was good. But you're right, there were some good overtakes by Fernando. You can't doubt that. You can't question that. But also, when you don't have a fight at the front and there's an outside of Alonso and Gasly moving through the field, there wasn't a huge amount going on. Obviously, I was on tenterhooks watching Alex Albon get into the points and then stay in the point, thanks to Charles retiring. That would have been very frustrating if he'd finished P11. But yeah, that's where I sit. Look, I think 6 is generous. Then a lot of you gone 7. So there we go. Also, like the stream while you're here. Now that a few of you are here, like the stream, please. Thank you, please. Cool. Okay, right. So let's take a look at the race results, shall we? Bosch, lovely jubbly. Max Verstappen wins ahead of Sergio Perez, Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Stroll. Who's Carlos Stroll? Also, should I do because I don't know if you've seen, WTF1 did their first IBR since silly season, and Matt and Tommy did their first post-race, but neither did a race rundown. So I'm going to do a race rundown. Should I steal race rundown from both of them now? Verstappen, Perez, Alonso, Sainz, Hamilton, Stroll, Russell, Bottas, Gasly, Albon, Tsunoda, Sargent, Magnussen, De Vries, Hulkenberg, Joe, Norris, Ocon, Leclerc, Piastri. That was kind of bottled Tsunoda a little bit. No, don't steal. I just did it that one time. To be fair, I kind of if you're watching my quali live stream, I ended up doing a rundown a bunch of times. I was pretty good, so I bottled it on Tsunoda a little bit there. Yeah, I'll take it. What a few of you might not know, I used to actually back in the early COVID days, I used to freelance for WTF1, and I would go to Matt's and we'd film IBR after the race, and I would be the one cutting. And sometimes, Matt, you had an absolute shocker, mate, I'll be honest. But sometimes you nailed it first time, but not very often. Anyway, race results. We take from this. I'm not surprised the Ferraris... Well, at least the fact that Alonso caught and passed Sainz was quite interesting. Leclerc was always going to stay ahead of Alonso, I think, if he hadn't have broken down. But I think that Ferrari race... Oh, look, obviously it's particularly hard on the tyres at Bahrain. So if you're not confident in your tyre management abilities with your car, then you're going to come up short, and that's, I think, why. I don't expect the Astons to be quicker than the Ferraris for most of this. I still think that I don't know. It's hard to write Ferrari off, but then Aston Martin have just been so impressive. You got to wonder that what could be. Could they really mount a P2 because it doesn't look like Red Bull are touchable this year. But I don't know. Yeah, they retired Ocon in the end. Just couldn't be arsed with his stupid penalties, you know. How many penalty points did Ocon get? Did he get any or did he get loads? Because I know he got lots of penalties in race, but in terms of penalty points, I haven't actually checked. Did he get any? But yeah, no real surprises up front. I mean, fair play, Lance also out like passing Russell with all the context around Stroll as well. And then it was kind of Bottas, Gasly, Albon, Tsunoda. Like the thing is that you got Alfa Romeo, Alpine, Williams, AlphaTauri in consecutive positions. Hulkenberg damaged front wing early doors, kind of ruined his race. You know, and I think Lando's pace was promising before he started having the issues. So I do think this leads to thinking it's almost like we still the midfield. It feels like the midfield has become Ferrari, Mercedes, Aston Martin. That is now the new midfield, and then you've got Red Bull on their own at the front, and then you've got everyone else. You know, because you have to say midfield, it implies there's a section in front and a section behind. You know, so the Red Bull are kind of on their own at the minute, seemingly, and then you've got everyone else in that kind of bottom end. No penalty point. Yeah, Ocon got so many time penalties, yet no penalty points. Mad. But we'll get more into that anyway. Up the album. What can I say? Right, so let's have a look at the driver standings. Obviously, first race is what it is. Good points on the board. This isn't too interesting, but if we look at constructors, that's where it is a bit more interesting. So a great start for Aston Martin, of course. Lance still picking up 8 points while he was at it as well. So shout out Lance. And oh no, sorry. I just realised I've not changed Scuderia AlphaTauri. I've got in red for some reason. I forgot to change that. Damn it. Never mind. I always leave one thing out in the graphics. There's always something. There's always something with me. I'm just not very good. Like, if you want to get me on as a designer, I'm always gonna mess one thing up. One thing up. There we go. I've got my bleep button. Never mind. Never mind. Cool. Okay, so let's take a look at winners and losers. Winners and losers back again for this year. Winners and losers from each race. Going to do them, talk about them in these streams. And I'm going to give mine. I've also asked for yours. We got almost 4,000 votes. Put the poll out last night for your best drive, worst drive, best team, worst team. It's a bit more clear wording it like that than driver L or whatever. So which driver did the best? Which team did the best? Which driver did the worst? Which team did the worst? And thank you, Luisma, for the €5, by the way. Ocon is a driver of your likes, but never comment about he quarrelled. Ocon is a driver you like, but you know about how he quarrelled. Wait, you mean I like Ocon, but I've never commented about how he quarrels with most of his teammates. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned a number of times that Ocon isn't a great teammate. I'm pretty sure there's receipts for me having mentioned that many a time. So, I'm pretty sure I put that out there. As much as I love Esteban Ocon, I'm a big fan. I haven't exactly, played it down. I don't think so anyway. But there you go. Right, okay, cool. Let's have a look at winners and losers time. Starting with mine, because I am more important than you. It's a joke. Ha ha, funny. And then we'll look at yours, okay? So my winners and losers, and you might be surprised by maybe one of these, because it's a driver I've been gassing up a lot, I'll be honest, and I was very disappointed with him yesterday. For me, best drive, Fernando Alonso. Best team, Red Bull. Worst team, McLaren. No surprises there. But I've gone worst drive. I've gone Joe. Now, yes, Ocon had a stinker. Yes, he had a stinker, right? So incorrect grid slot, very fine margins, and then it was just sped in the pit lane. Did the team like hold him for too long or something, or not long enough or something? Man, yes, he got fastest lap, but that was sticking softs on at the end just to take it off Gasly. So I mean, I don't think that what does that count for, really? Like, and he finished P16, whereas Bottas finished P8. And he didn't really have any issues as far as I'm aware. That's the thing. Hulkenberg broken front wing. So fair enough, he fell through the field. De Vries, he was a couple of positions behind Tsunoda. Joe finished P16, Bottas finished P8, and he didn't have any issues. And exactly. The fastest lap points only awarded if you finish in the top 10. Gasly was P9. So Joe pitted to then go for that. But that's the thing. He was like he was off. He was off Valtteri. I was disappointed. So where was he? He was what, P13, I think, before he pitted for fastest lap. So look, no, P12. But it's still that's 4 places off of Bottas. They started ahead. He had a shocking start, and he didn't have any issues. He didn't have any issues. With Ocon, it was a process of he made a mistake, and then he made another mistake, and then the team made mistakes, and it was a self-sabotage. No, Joe didn't have a good race. I'm sorry, he didn't. He didn't have a good race. He had a bit of a stink race, but next time, Joe. To be fair, I actually, in my predictions, hang on, let me grab the graphic. In my predictions, let's have a look. Oh, thank you, Lucas, for gifting a membership. Appreciate that. Where did I put? Yeah, I put in my predictions. Yeah, I put. This is the real L. This is the real L. Because in my predictions, I actually put Joe as best drive and Stroll as worst drive. Now, that was an L. I'll take that one. Look, Ocon's in my honourable mentions. De Vries, I've put in there. Not great. Hulkenberg, not great. I mean, front wing damage, though, so it's hard to put too much on him. But I'm not saying Ocon had a good race. It's there. Look, it's OCO. He's there. I'm just saying. Joe had a stinker compared to Bottas. So that's the way I see it. What else? What else we got? Yeah, Red Bull, McLaren, standard. Let's move on. Let's move on because everyone's angry with me. Well, look, I'm just calling it as I see it. De Vries, they left him out, didn't they? He was to him to hold up Joe, wasn't it, to let Tsunoda past? But yeah, stinky from Joe, stinky from Ocon for sure. But I'm going Joe. I'm sticking to my guns. All right, I'm sticking to me guns. Let's boycott. That's it. Cancel me. Delete me. End my career. As for yours, you've of course gone Ocon, worst drive, funnily enough. Otherwise, all pretty much the same. I'm kind of surprised Norris got 4% of the vote. Not that Lando had much to do with the car finishing where it did, but it was very hard for him to really showcase anything. Yes, he was keeping up with that scrap, but also he was on on fresh rubber, all the time, pretty much. I don't know. Maybe it's a sympathy vote, I think, more than anything. Worst drive, De Vries, Hulkenberg, Magnussen. Again, Magnussen, hard for him to make too much of an impact on this race. The Haas just didn't seem to have the pace, and obviously qualifying really set him back. And then Hulkenberg had that damage, which he said when he didn't even realise. That was quite interesting. Hulkenberg didn't even realise he had that damage. But he was just like, I'm just going through tyres here. And they were like, oh, yeah, you've got no front wing end plate. And he was like, oh, damn. Best team, got Alpine 4%, Williams 3% of the vote, fair play. And then worst team, 85%, McLaren. No surprises there. No surprises there. Right. Also, before we get into the team breakdown, should we have a look at my fantasy league? Fantasy league, so to be fair, as much as, you know, Joe had a stinker as far as I'm concerned, he did get fastest lap, so that gave me 8 points in fantasy league. But Charles minus 11, Nico Hulkenberg minus 1. At least Max and Fernando came through for me, as did Aston Martin and Red Bull Racing. Yeah, not the best day in the fantasy league office. What did you lot get points wise? Let me know. 242, which isn't great. I think I'm in the top half of my league. I think I'm about in the middle. I'm pretty slap bang in the middle. So you can still join the league if you want to. The league code's there. It's also should be. Is it linked in the description? Yes, it is. It's linked in the description as well. And there is the league code. So check out either or if you want to get involved in the fantasy league and put your wheel knowledge to the test against me. Yeah, I think Sargent could be a good shout. I think there's going to be, now that we've seen this first race, I think there's going to be some interesting, because the cars that, you know, Saudi and Bahrain are very different tracks as well. So it's kind of important not to overcorrect. You know what I mean? No, I didn't put Albon in. You're right. No, I know Xavier. I know, shock. It would jinx Alex, I'm sure. Okay, I'm very guilty of that. I'm kind of considering, you know, I feel like Mercedes are going to be better in Saudi. I don't know. I've just got a feeling they'll suit that track better. So maybe, I don't know. I think there's 2 free transfers that you get before it starts eating into your cost cap. So there's my team anyway. Thank you, Anthony, for the $4.99. Still waiting for a pink t-shirt or a new pin. Glad to see your videos grow so much in the last few years. Thank you, Anthony. Appreciate that. Well, maybe not the latter, but maybe the prior. We'll see. We will see. Right, let's talk about the teams then, shall we? Let's talk team by team, starting with Will.i.ams. Shout out Williams. Come on, up the Williams. Yes, happy days. Williams, come on. Come on, Alex. Come on, Logan. Mate, I'm gassed. I'm very happy. I'm very happy as a Williams fan. I am a Williams fan because I'm a big Alex Albon fan, and I'm a Logan Sargent fan. He was the driver I was pulling for in F2 last year. So I am a happy Formula One YouTuber. What can I say? I'm chuffed with it. Yeah, good drive from Alex. Good drive from, again, I was more impressed with Logan. Like, Alex didn't do anything wrong, but neither did Logan. Like, for him to finish 2 places behind Alex, you know, he was following him, keeping on pace with him for most of the race, it felt like. Anyway, I haven't really looked at the breakdown of times, but for Logan to be as close to Alex, you know, he's already past the was it a Latifi problem test? You know, yes, it was, clearly, because Logan's jumped in straight away and put a really good account of himself in, and it shouldn't come as a surprise. Again, like, I felt like I had a bit more understanding of Logan because I followed his junior career extra close since the end of 2020. Because I remember watching the end of 2020 and seeing the Mugello finale with Piastri and Pourchaire and Sargent. And Sargent was, you know, right at the sharp end with those two going into it. And thinking, okay, I might take an interest in this kid. And then obviously, you know, had to do another year in F3 at Charouz and then eventually got the rookie slot in F2. And yeah, I think that Logan's the real deal. He's not just, we're going to get a driver because he's American. Obviously, it's a benefit. I'm pretty sure Stevens, that sponsor on there, I'm pretty sure they're a US-based sponsor who are likely coming through, Logan. But look, if that team can start performing at the front, performing towards the front is going to do more, I think, in terms of bringing in US sponsors than having an American driver. They kind of work hand in hand, but I think having an American driver but still being at the back wouldn't really make much of a difference. But listen, it's good. I mean, where are we saying Williams are? In terms of quality of car pace. For Sargent to go exactly the same time as Lando in qualifying and go quicker than Piastri, Albon to could have maybe knocked on the door for Q3 if he hadn't have had the front wing issue in Q2. You got to think like right now, are they looking quicker than the McLaren? Based off of this first race, right now, I think they are quicker than the McLaren. I think the McLaren upgrades, when they eventually come, might change that. But, for Williams to start the season like this, and also, you know what, I think credit to Jos Capito and FX, as much as they're gone out the door, this was their car. James Vowles has had very little say in this car. Yes, obviously they haven't made the jump up that Aston Martin have, and that makes Williams moving from the back to maybe 7th or into the midfield not look quite as impressive. But I think Aston Martin have been exceptional. Like, not very, very, very few teams do that. Go from the bottom end, especially the second season of the new regulations as well. In the first season, it happens, Honda turned into Brawn, first season of new regs, boom, nailed it. Everyone else caught up. But to have that jump in the second season of new regulations, I think is even more impressive. But anyway, Albon would have been P10 in qualifying if it wasn't for his... Maybe. I mean, it's impossible to say for sure. But at the end of the day, closed it out. Race pace wasn't amazing. Obviously, Gasly got past, but then... We're going to talk about Alpine because there's still a lot of questions around Alpine. Still got a lot of questions around Alpine. Aston already 4th, 5th. I'd disagree, Karan. They scored fewer points in the second half of the season than Alpine and McLaren by a significant margin. So I would say they were comfortably 6th fastest. I wouldn't say 4th or 5th. They could fight, but they won't, maybe. It's fine margins, isn't it? It's very fine margins. Cheers, Will. Glad you like the out, mate. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think the way that Gasly moved through the field and overtook Alex as well as everyone else, that it started, made up 11 places to Pierre. So he did a great job. But anyway, we're talking about Williams. Good momentum. I think they can be very happy. Got a point on their first race of the season. Good momentum. I'm sure that's given everyone a bit of a rise at Williams. And yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy for Williams, and I'm happy for Alex, and I'm happy for Logan, because it seems like they might be in a half-decent place. Yes, we have looked at fantasy. I'll just briefly show you before we talk about the next team. That's my team, 242. Could have been better. Could have been worse. Could have been better. Okay, cool. Next team, AlphaTauri. Over-delivered for me. Like, Yuki Tsunoda was right on Alex's chuff for the end of that race, right behind him. And for an AlphaTauri to be on the cusp of points, I was impressed. Yes, obviously, would Piastri have finished ahead of Tsunoda if he didn't break down? Would Norris have finished ahead of Tsunoda if he didn't have the issues he had? Obviously, Leclerc would have if he didn't break down. Ocon probably would have as well. That helps it look a bit better than maybe it was, but at the end of the day, gap to teammate, I think he did a much better job than De Vries in qualifying at least, and in the race, yes, De Vries got a bit cucked on strategy. To be honest, everyone else is on soft tyres, he's sat there on old hards, not ideal, but yeah, good start for Yuki, and he needs this momentum. Because he needs to consolidate. We know Nick De Vries is a in terms of mentality, I back Nick De Vries. I think De Vries has got a very strong mental game. Question is, can Yuki stand up and take that step up and become that team leader that, already Helmut Marko has said he doesn't believe that Yuki will take that role. So can Yuki prove him wrong? Hopefully. hopefully. Yuki needs to step up this year, whether it's going to consolidate his position at that team or give him an opportunity somewhere else. Are they both on 1 year contracts? I believe so, Margot. I think that's the case. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see if Yuki can do it this year. I've got faith. I've got belief. And yeah, De Vries, kept it clean. Didn't have a particularly impressive race. But I do have slightly higher expectations of him because of, he's a rookie, but he's not a rookie. You know what I mean? He's not. He knows how to race wheel to wheel against some of the, I know people like to. I know I've had my fair share of say about Formula E because I prefer it now. I'm still not a massive fan, but the quality of caliber of drivers in Formula E can't be, is nothing to turn your nose up at. That's for sure. I would never say that the driving standards are low in that series at all. And for him to win in that series is for sure impressive. But can he do it in F1? Time will tell. Time will tell. Next, Haas. See, right, a lot. I don't know if you've seen the. I saw someone the whole Nico Hulkenberg apology meme and I shared it on Twitter after Saturday, and then obviously after yesterday, everyone was like, "Oh, look at what a terrible take. He was terrible." Well, I'm sorry. He had damaged lap 1. He had no front wing end plate, so he was just munching through his tyres. What? He didn't even realise he had front wing. It was just munching his tyres. So, look, it was harsh. It was very harsh, I thought, on Nico. That slight, tiny bit of contact with Ocon. And that was his race kind of ruined and all that hard work he put in Q to get the car to Q3, remember? It was a shame. And when they did eventually change his front wing, he was like, "Oh yeah, the car feels great now." Shame. They should have done that earlier. To be fair, I feel like, I don't know. My understanding is that the team told Nico he had damaged the front wing, and there was a decision made for him it wasn't worth him coming in for a new front wing and the time that would add. But I think that probably was, because then he ended up eating through tyres, Yeah, Magnussen just had no impact on this race whatsoever. Didn't even see him. So yeah, not great for K-Mag. Not great. But look, I don't think Haas are out at sea on their own. I think if they have a clean weekend, they can definitely get points. I don't see too many reasons to not believe that. So I've still got faith that Haas are going to be good at the start of this year. But also with Hulkenberg qualifying as high as he did, they certainly missed an opportunity. I'll tell you what, from this angle, that really does look like a Ferrari, doesn't it? Those side pods are very Ferrari-esque from this angle. But anyway. Yeah, I think, race pace wasn't great, but it wasn't like... I just think it's close enough between those bottom kind of 5 teams, 6 teams really, in the bottom half of the grid. They're so close that I think on any given weekend, depending on, track optimization, because again, Bahrain's very different to Saudi, which is very different to Imola, which is very different to Monza, etc., etc. So we'll see. Yeah, he did almost get the meatball flag. Ocon almost got the meatball flag as well, didn't he? Yeah, because I forgot that Ocon broke front wing end plate to add to his long list of shenanigans yesterday. Right, Aston Martin. Come into Aston Martin because I've done these in reverse championship order from last season. But Aston Martin, man, mad. Well, first of all, Lance, very valid questions beforehand as to whether he should be racing because of the injuries he's got. It's one of them that he finished the race, he finished in a great position, and it's all like, oh yeah, of course he should have raced. It takes an incident to happen. I mean, he had to do a massive correction on lap 1, which he said afterwards did hurt a lot. It's one of them, innit? At the end of the day, Stroll did a great job. You can't argue with that. He pushed through, And for him to, with so little testing, to be, fairly close to, bloody hell, Luca. Thank you very much for gifting the memberships left, right, and centre. Appreciate it. I've only started doing that recently on YouTube, so thank you very much, Luca. It's got ahead of Russell. Look, honestly, I don't think you could have asked much more from Lance in this race, and I think it's really promising that, with the amount of experience he's got, he should be able to. There's always been talk, and I've talked about it. I'm not like that. Is Lance going to be the weak link at that team? And based off what we saw yesterday, I think the answer is no. You're always going to have this dynamic of a 1-2 driver when you've got a Fernando Alonso, because it takes someone with Herculean skill to go toe-to-toe with Fernando. But I think Stroll's close enough from what we've seen. He will. I saw someone say this on Twitter, and I was like, "You're so right." It's like he will have 2, maybe 3 really strong races, and then he will just make a really high-profile mistake, and he just needs to iron out those mistakes, use his mirrors a bit more, good spatial awareness, and then boom. Because you're right, Cone. It's great, and it was meant to be. So much of this was meant to be, right? Because, Fernando, moving through the field and had contact with Sainz, great scrap with Lewis to get onto the podium. But Stroll went into the back of Alonso on lap 1, hard as well. And you replay that incident 100 times over, with slight variation, a few millimetres to the left, a few millimetres to the right on both sides of the cars. And there's a puncture for Fernando. There's a damaged front wing for Lance. There's both. That race for both cars could have quite easily ended there. And that was just oh my goodness, come on, Lance, man. You can't be yeeting into your teammate up the inside. And look, I get it. Fernando was going for the cutback. Stroll was going for the move up the inside, and he just kind of outbraked himself. But it's he could have broken earlier. That's what the... Look, I get it. In hindsight, nothing happened, and it's fine. But it's one of them that it's those little things that Lance does seem to have a tendency to get involved in these kind of situations, That's all I'm saying. And it was very lucky. And it was because Fernando was like, "Who was that?" And I don't think the team told him until after the race, because he said he thought it was Russell. Because I guess Russell's got a bit of a habit of doing that as well, harpooning Carlos Sainz in Austin, for example. Look, it was meant to be. It was honestly meant to be yesterday. And as much as, Fernando didn't have a great start, actually, to be fair to him. And, it was racing incident because, fine. It would have been, imagine if Lance had got a penalty for bonking into his teammate. That would have been very poor. Did he ask the team 3 times? Wow. And the team was just we're not telling you, Fernando. We're not grassing up. We're not grassing up, Lance. We're not doing it. But yeah, look, I hope that, because you know what, Lance is one of them drivers that, when I first started seeing him on track and start getting him, I just didn't really have an opinion of him, in terms of his character, and I certainly didn't believe in him in terms of his performances. I thought Sorokin outperformed him in his first season in F1. I thought he's been consistently beaten by teammates. You look at how convincingly Checo outperformed him, in my opinion, during their time together, and now, how a driver like Verstappen's just that other step up from Checo. It didn't bode well. But one thing Lance is always going to get is time. He's 24, I think. He's going to get that time. He's going to get that time to develop. We could easily see another 10 years of Lance Stroll in Formula 1. And, I think you have to acknowledge that he has improved a lot in that time. And has he, you know, was he this worldy in junior formulas? I mean, he did have good results in junior formulas, although there's certain questions around the legality of his engines in those junior formulas. But anyway, ask Josh Reville. Um, but no, I think as things are right now, like that delta to Fernando, and Fernando's doing a great job on the LP. Oh, Lance is my hero. I love it. But yeah, no, Lance held up his end of the bargain, which is good to see, because I like all these drivers and I want to see him do well. And it's nice, you know, if Lance can overcome these pay driver labels and actually put performances in on track, then I'm more than happy to see that. Honestly, I am. And yeah, as for Fernando, I mean, everything that was out of his control, like Lance crashing into him, went right, and everything that was in his control, he executed perfectly. Like, unreal wheel-to-wheel racing with Lewis first and foremost. That move down the inside. Whoa, I tell you what, someone said it in live chat earlier. That is definitely an early candidate for overtake of the season. That little cutback just, you know, sent Lewis the other way. Love it. It was very good. And yeah, and getting the job done on science as well. That looked a bit hairy, a bit sketchy at times, because Carlos was really struggling on his tyres. He still managed to hold off Lewis once Fernando did get through. But yeah, I mean, it would have been interesting to see if Fernando had had a better start, how he would have, you know, what his pace would have been relative to the Red Bulls, right? Because again, it's looking like the Red Bulls have checked out a little bit in terms of their performances, like top tier. So it would have been interesting to see. I hope we get to see that more, what the actual delta is between us. Because obviously Fernando was fighting through the field. So, you know, he was 25 seconds behind Max at the end. Also, Red Bull, I'm sure they turned down their engines, because why wouldn't they? They're going to try and save as much wear on those engines when they can. Yeah, so I think they're in a great place. And again, it wasn't all gas. It wasn't all gas. I was concerned that, you know, they were going to turn up and they were going to be about, you know, Alpine level, not in an amazing place, but they've actually done it. Aston Martin have actually done it. So credit to them, credit to Dan Fallows as well. Right? But not just Dan Fallows, you got Luca Fabato, who moved over from, I think it was Alfa Romeo. Obviously you got Whitmarsh, who's come in. It was obviously ex-McLaren. They've brought in a lot of De La Rosa's in as well. Van Dorn's as a reserve. Brought a lot of the old band back together from the McLaren glory days. Eric Blandin, yes, good shout. Yeah, I think, you know, all these components and taking these strengths from other teams, it seems to be... And they don't even have their new facility yet. That's the thing. That's mad. Like, they're not even moving into their new facility until, like, middle of this year, I think. I think it was meant to be the start of this year. But obviously, I think there's always delays. But I think it's middle of this year they're moving in. And then their wind tunnel won't be ready for, like, another 6 months, a year, I think. So, yeah, there's potential seeping out of the woodwork here. There's a lot of potential Aston Martin. It's exciting. That's the thing. If that top three can become a top four, which it looks like it has become a top four, although maybe it's a top one and then the rest, the other three, and then everyone else, that actually seems more likely, maybe. But I'm all here for it. Right, Alfa Romeo. Yeah, I mean, great start to the season last year from Valtteri Bottas. Was picking up points consistently at the start of the year. Obviously, with the Aston Martin gains, that's going to make... You know, now you've got 4 teams that you would expect to consistently be in the top 10 outside of DNFs. That only leaves 2 more positions to win points. This is what I think, like, the battle for, you know, between P10 and P5 in the Constructors, I don't think there's going to be much in it. Okay, tell a lie. I think Alpine will be quite comfortably ahead of the rest, actually. We didn't see the full Alpine story, but I think Alfa Romeo are one of those teams who are towards the top and will capitalise, and Valtteri did so. Had a pretty perfect race, really. So I didn't really see Bottas. I didn't mention Bottas actually in in my drives of the weekend, but what did he do wrong? He gained position. Yeah, obviously, yes, Leclerc, Ocon broke down in front of him, but couldn't have done much more. Valtteri, another really strong start to the year. I think Joe had a stinker. All right. I know that's not the most popular opinion, but at the end of the day, it's looking okay. It's looking like a step in a positive direction based off what happened at the end of last year. So, yeah, I think that with Seidel coming in as well, that Audi money, that team becomes a lot more appealing as well. Yeah. I think, because Bottas did the undercut, didn't he, on Alonso and Russell, I think it was. So, look, Bottas is that driver that I think, the team can rely on him to extract towards the top end of that car most of the times. I think Joe can be that driver. I was just, disappointed with him this weekend. I think you can already put a check mark on most improved team prediction. Yeah, I mean, that's no kind of... I'm not going to pat myself on the back for that one, though, to be honest. But yeah, not much more to say. Well done, Bottas. 4 points on the board. Very handy. Very handy indeed. Right, McLaren. Oh, God. Right, any McLaren fans in the chat? Where are you? And again, you might want to revert your gaze. You might want to, mute the stream for a bit until the next team graphic pops up, because it's not good, is it? Now, look, the one kind of bit of hope I think is hold on to at this stage, oh yeah, there's a lot of you here, cool, is that this time last year they had a very, very bad test, brake issues, finished poorly in the race, both cars well out of the points. Yet, 3 races later in Imola, 3-4 races, whatever it is, Lando got on the podium. So fundamentally they had a good car. It's just they had some issues at the start, rolled on from testing that inhibited their ability to perform in Bahrain, which is interesting because actually Bahrain's a bit of a home race for McLaren, isn't it? Because isn't a lot of the McLaren investment from Bahrain, as far as I understand anyway? Or I'm sure McLaren call this as like their kind of second home race after Silverstone. And thank you, Braxton, by the way. Appreciate it for the $10. Yeah, it kind of is. So, that's obviously not ideal because they've had 2 really bad Bahrain Grand Prix in a row, have McLaren. But that's the one kind of morsel to hold on to. And you do have 2 drivers there in Lando. And I think Oscar was having a pretty decent race. Like he was making progress through the field, it seemed. Who knows where he would have finished in the end, but I don't necessarily think he would have got points. He might have been able to get Albon, maybe to sneak a P10, but then Norris would have probably got up there. So I don't think Oscar would have necessarily got points, but from what I saw, he was doing a pretty decent job. So you've got great drivers. This happened last year, and there's upgrades kind of imminent coming in Baku by the looks of it. That's the stuff to hold on to. But the problem is, right, last year, again, they had a very good car by Imola that they could get on the podium. They were at the top, fighting towards the top end of the midfield with Lando. This season, where Aston Martin have jumped up significantly, clearly have a better car than McLaren. There's nothing to... It's not arguable, Aston Martin have the better package. You've got Williams improving. Williams were quicker this race than McLaren, seemingly. You've got, I think, Alfa Romeo improving. Alpine, I think, you look at how Gasly came through the pack. I think there's a big improvement there for Alpine. And it's all relative in F1. So it's like, if all these other teams are improving and McLaren is somewhat stagnating, then they could lose out big time. And Lando does help, having him particularly, and if Oscar can deliver on his potential, having those 2 drivers will certainly help McLaren's cause, but they can't do it all themselves. You need a good car underneath you, and I'm concerned. Thank you, Potter's House, by the way, for the 70 rupees. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. And thank you, Nathan, for the 10 Aussie. As an Aussie, stand up to 1 a.m. to witness a super talented Australian driver struggle in a bright orange F1 car. Nothing hurts me anymore. Love your videos, Tommo. Much love from Adelaide. Big up Adelaide. Would love to go to Adelaide. I want to do Perth, Adelaide next time we go to Australia. Maybe next year. That's what I'm thinking. Daniel got the bag and watched McLaren implode. Look, it's... What can I say? It's disappointing, isn't it? To see a team that in 2020 was ahead of Ferrari, has this amazing facility. I know there were financial issues at the team, and that's obviously not helped. They had to sell the MTC. They now rent it out, I believe, and they had to rely on, again, it was money coming from Bahrain in some way, shape or form that helped support and save that team, really. And it's not good enough. Like, it's not. You look at the trajectory of Ferrari, you look at the trajectory of Aston Martin, you look at the trajectory of even like Alpine seem to, be moving in a more positive direction. And combined with Seidel leaving, how much of this is on Seidel? Maybe some of it is on Seidel. I've always been very complimentary of Seidel, but, he took the reins in, 2020? 2019, I think? And the team has, yes, I guess Ferrari's incompetence got McLaren that P3 in 2020, P4 in 2021, still very good. And that was obviously with Ricciardo still struggling. 2022, Alpine passed them, probably had the better car, but again, Ricciardo was struggling. And then this year, it's just, there's more issues. There were more issues at the start of testing last year. There's more issues again. It's just like, how long can you keep making excuses? And sure, you've got, some fancy Kindles built into the side of your car, but it's not good enough. Like, it really isn't. For a team like McLaren, with the facility, with the infrastructure, with the history, yes, I know they've still not got their own wind tunnel, but they've been using, I think they've been using Toyotas in Cologne or something, I think, from what I've read. It's just like, come on, it's not good enough. It's really not good enough, and they need to improve quickly, because just having that name is not gonna, it's not enough. Like, Williams were very successful and then struggled towards the back and are still trying to dig themselves out of that hole. McLaren haven't challenged really at the front for a long time now. There's too much. I feel like from everything I've heard, you hear a lot of things, you hear a lot of rumours, you hear a lot of speculation around these teams, all of them, and I haven't heard much good from McLaren. Can you substantiate these things? No, but when you hear so much from so many different people, it then starts to, it's no smoke without fire, you know what I mean? I don't know, I just feel like maybe there's some big change needed at that team. Because look, Zach Brown, he does the marketing. He doesn't manage that. He hires a team principal to do that job. So I think Zach's holding up his end of the bargain. I think the only thing I would say is that maybe, is it Zach? Obviously, Zach's in charge of hiring the people that you delegate. The James Key, the obviously Andrea Stella now. That's his responsibility that you could argue he is failing. That is the part of his responsibility that he's arguably failing right now. So it's like, is Andrea Stella the right appointment? I'm not sure. But no, it's not good, is it? It's not good. And look, maybe it will come good by the end of the year, but again, Aston Martin have proven it can be done. It can be done. You can go from the back of the field in this cost cap regulation. And, the Aston Martin improved over the course of the year, remember? It wasn't like Aston Martin just threw away, we're just going to chuck away the rest of 2022 and we're going to focus on our 2023 car. They got better as last season went on. And now they've taken even a bigger jump up, It's mad. Look, And that's the thing, right? It's how much Zach is on top of that pyramid, right? He's top dog at McLaren. You know, he's not the one making engineering calls. He's not the one making strategy decisions, blah, blah, blah. But he is responsible for hiring the people who do. You say the same about Mattia Binotto. You know, he was the one, much as he wasn't making the strategy calls, he was responsible for the team that did make the strategy calls. He was responsible for hiring them, making sure they're the right people to do the job. And yeah, again, it's when you see these other teams seem to kind of out deliver on McLaren, and it's again, you've got those drivers there, and it's just like they've got the talent. It feels like they've got the talent in their cars, but they don't have the cars, and they're at risk of losing them. Big risk of losing them. But we'll see. Sorry, McLaren fans, but the truth is what it is. You can't look past it. You just look at the result, look at the numbers. It's not good. It's not good. But then Alpine. Oh, I still don't know where Alpine are. I saw a graphic on twitter.com that I think it was comparing race pace. And Gasly's race pace was very good. And again, like he started P20, stinky qualifying, got his lap deleted, would have gone out in Q1 anyway, I think. Ocon, obviously victim of his own down. No, that's not the term I'm saying, isn't it? He orchestrated his own downfall from the start by not lining up properly in his grid box. But obviously got into Q3 as well. I feel like Alpine, I think fifth fastest seems like quite a comfortable assertion to make. You know, they're definitely not. I can't say that they're definitely not 100% not up there with maybe on the tail end of Mercedes. I want to have a look at I'm going to have a quick look at the qualifying deltas because I want to check. So Bahrain 23. Let's have a look. Qualifying results. I'll get the old screen share up and we'll have a look because I just want to see how Ocon's times looked compared. So if I do screen share and then I do this, there we go. Boom, lovely. All right, cool. Let's drag that over there. So these are the qualifying times from. Sorry to audio only listeners, but I just want to look at Esteban Ocon here. So Ocon, he is a good half a second off of the Mercedes in Q3. About 0.4 in Q2. About the same in Q1. But again, I think, Q3, that half a second there. And look, obviously, I do think part of that is because I think Hamilton's a better driver than Ocon. Don't get me wrong. So maybe that gap's a little bit less than that in reality. But yeah, I think it's about 0.4 in qualifying, which it was a bit too much to call them part of that pack. So yeah, I think one of you said in chat, I think comfortably fifth. I feel like they're going to be they're comfortably in that middle bit, which again for a constructor, you see Aston Martin jumping up like they have has certainly shone a light on McLaren, on Alpine, as being like, this is what you lot have been chatting about for years. Like we're going to fight in a few years' time. It's always going to be. Oh, am I gone? Hello? Am I back? There we go. We're back. I touched my microphone. Sorry. Thank you. The whole chat lights up. Audio. So that's quite loud. We're back. As I was saying. Aston Martin have shone a light on Alpine and McLaren's. I feel like incompetence could be a harsh word, and whether it's, Aston Martin, they have made a huge jump up here. But why aren't Alpine and McLaren doing that? They've had more resource for quite a significant number of years now, and they've always talked about, especially Alpine, have always talked about, oh, it's gonna be next year, it's gonna be next couple of years, whatever. And they've just never been able to really deliver on it. Now, again, be interesting to see, because I think at Saudi last year they did pretty well. I feel like they were pretty. I feel like they were pretty good in Saudi, so I just dropped my SD card. But yeah, a lot of questions. Great drive from Gasly. Can't doubt that. But as a manufacturer team, they need to be doing better. And again, Aston Martin have shone a light on that. But yeah, great drive from Pierre. Stinker from Ocon. Again, made that one mistake at the start, which is a very silly rookie mistake that you can't be making. You've got 3 rookies on the grid. They didn't make that mistake. You're an established F1 driver. You could tell. I think you could see he was trying to. I think he was trying to reverse it, wasn't he? But yeah, that's foolishness for sure from Esteban. But yeah, then obviously it was he then sped in the pit lane. Then I think the team touched the car too early, and it was just like everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. But he didn't get any penalty points by the sound of it. So there you go. And again, very promising from Pierre. So it's not at the end of the world necessarily, and I'm hopeful that Alpine can be closer to the front, but don't expect it. Don't expect it. They touched the car 0.4 seconds too early. Savage. Savage indeed. Right, next team, Mercedes. Now, this week's video is going to be about Mercedes more broadly. What's happened to Mercedes, because it's not looking good, Brev. Toto called it the worst race experience he's had, or something along those lines. Remember when Kevin in the Haas in like Canada, I think, was like moaning like, this is the worst experience I've ever had in a racing car. Toto Wolff essentially said that. And yeah, it feels like, based off what we saw yesterday, they are the 4th fastest car. At least in Bahrain, they were the 4th fastest car. You know, you had Leclerc and Sainz clear of them in qualifying, and seemingly in the race as well. Charles would have held on to P3. Aston Martin, just as close in qualifying, I think, but better on their tyres. You know, it's not good. It's not good. And yeah, Toto's obviously come out and said that radical change is needed. And what do Mercedes do? Do they... I think they have to just... This season's done. Like, they're not going to catch Red Bull. They're not going to fight for a world championship this year. This season's done. Fin. End. Just leave the car as it is. Leave the car as it is. Get 4th in the constructors. Get that little bit more wind tunnel aero time, and put all of your resource into next year and move from there. Like, I don't see what else they can do. If they want to improve marginally, sure, like, don't do that. But they need to improve significantly, because Red Bull... And look, maybe there is an opportunity to catch Red Bull when this extra aero time starts to actually hurt them, which is more likely to be like later this year, from my understanding now, and like next season. But, and again, look, we will 99% of us in this live chat, maybe there's a couple of you actually really know what you're talking about from an engineering aerodynamics point of view, but the side pod is the most, it's the visual, it's not actually all to do with the side pod, there's more of a philosophy built into it, but like, the side pod is the visually obvious thing, which you know, you see no side pod, you see slow car, you think, oh, that's why, and it's part of it, but it's not the whole thing. And yeah, I think that there was a decision. Do they stick with what they've got and try and make the most of it? And I think from what we've seen, and the jump up of Aston Martin. The problem for Mercedes is, again, you can't spend your way out of a hole like you used to, and you've got Aston Martin jumping up. You've got maybe Alpine looking to nibble at their heels as well. There's more competition now. So if you do flop, you're going to get more exposed than in the past, where you had this clear top three with all their money, and the worst they could finish is P3. I don't think that's the case anymore. Right now, yeah, the worst is they could finish as P4. But what if Alpine do bring another strong upgrade to their car? Maybe they're giving Mercedes some problems. It's not out of question. Just because it's Mercedes, like, no team is infallible. They might have been the most dominant team in F1 history in terms of 8 constructors titles in a row, but that doesn't mean they're infallible, and we're seeing that now. This is the team that beat Red Bull and Ferrari and everyone else 8 seasons in a row in the constructors. They know what they're doing, but everyone makes mistakes. And even if it wasn't a mistake, it's just like, how did not only Red Bull and Ferrari, out development, but then Aston Martin come out of nowhere and create a quicker car for the start of this year? It's not good enough. And yeah, it does make me wonder. Yeah, I feel for George, because he saw all them years at Williams on the sideline with Valtteri getting the odd race win and winning constructors titles at Mercedes. And then he gets in and the slump begins as George comes into that team. And maybe it is complacency. Maybe. I don't know. The thing is, we don't know enough. Like, on the outside looking in, we don't know enough about what went wrong. Was it just... It's easy in hindsight to be like, oh, that was clearly the wrong decision. And maybe it was, but maybe it wasn't. And maybe it was worth the punt, I think that one thing as well, you look at how long Red Bull stuck by Christian Horner, even when, after the Vettel domination years, they were getting beaten year after year after year by Mercedes. Christian and Adrian at that team weren't able to engineer a car better than the Mercedes, but they stuck by. And so I think I'm not going to sit here and be, everyone needs to get sacked, so they need to change everything, because that's not necessarily that sometimes another team just does better than you, and you just need to suck it up and improve. Trust the process. Maybe. I don't know. That's what I mean. I don't have enough information. I don't have enough insight. I'm not an engineer. But yeah. Tough time for Mercedes. Tough time for George. Tough time for Lewis as well. You got to think, if he doesn't believe this team can... Because I feel like if this team... If Lewis loses faith in this team being able to deliver him a car that he can fight for an 8th world title in, I don't think... Like, Alonso always talked about this. I'm only interested in being in F1 if there's a potential to win and be at the front. And he's realising that now. Sebastian talked about this. He was only interested in going that Aston Martin project because he thought there was potential for it to succeed. And, obviously life as well and all that changed for him. But that's it. That's sport for you, Domination never lasts forever. There's always someone who gets knocked off their pedestal, and that's what we're seeing now, That's what we're seeing now. But anyway, time for Ferrari. Ferrari. I said before the race, I was kind of expecting them to get issues from Mercedes and Aston Martin. Because of the tyre degradation. They've always been a better qualifying car than a race car. Aston and Mercedes last season were both better race cars than they were qualifying cars. So I was always, okay, man. And Carlos did what he could. Like, he got overtaken by Fernando. Fernando's car was clearly much quicker than his when they came to battle. But then for Charles to break down, first race of the year, power unit issue. Do we know the exact, because it was engine, have they put out exactly what it was by any chance? Because I don't actually know. I think battery failure. Yeah, because they had they had to replace that electrical component. So was it to control electronics? Yeah. Because Oscar had his issue was electronic as well, wasn't it? Because the steering wheel was like showing a different gear to what he was actually in or something. Um, it was a system that they changed. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, it's not promising, is it? That's the thing. I feel like that gap between Ferrari and Red Bull is has if anything grown. I feel like it's bigger, and that's not to do with Charles retiring either. You know, the gap he was pulling out on Charles at the start of the race. What it was like 7 seconds after about 9 laps or something, and yeah, it's going to be a long year for Ferrari fans. And again, with Aston Martin up there, there's no guarantee they'll be in the fight for P2 or P3. They could, if Mercedes do sort their act out, you rely on Mercedes' reliability. That's why they were able to keep close to Ferrari at the start of last year and outscore Ferrari in the second half of last year, because they were the more reliable team, the more reliable car, and had more reliable drivers as well, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. How much of it is like, you look at Red Bull right now and you just think, oh man, we just need to consolidate, because it's ominous. Bad day for Ferrari. As much as Carlos Sainz got okay points, it should have been a lot more, clearly. We'll see. I mean, it's a marathon, not a sprint, as Lewis Hamilton famously once said. But Saudi, straight line speed, less tyre deg. It will be interesting. We'll learn a lot from these first few races. Bahrain is exceptionally hard on the tyres. It's a lot of straight lines and tight corners as well. So it doesn't really challenge high-speed cornering performance too much. So we'll see that a lot more in Saudi for sure. Thank you, Lord Uzik. I would sacrifice anything for Charles to have a nice drama-free race. Good luck with that. No Ferrari BS, no engine problems. No, it's not happening, Uzik. I'm sorry. You picked the wrong, not so much Charles, that you picked the wrong driver at a team to support in that instance. But yeah. Oh, Ferrari, never mind, because Red Bull are looking... We've used this word so many times, ominous. Ominous is the word, isn't it? 1-2, comfortable, could turn the engines down. We're still 25 seconds clear of Alonso, was Max. Checo was like 10 seconds down the road. And again, I don't think that's a representative gap, because I think they were just consolidating. Why put extra revs on the engine when you don't need to, when you've got such a big gap at the front? That's the thing. If you can develop a really good racing car, not only can you win convincingly, but you can put yourself into a position where you can then save your engine more than everyone else behind you who's ragging theirs to the red line. You can save your engine a bit. You can save, just wear on the car generally. You're not having to push as hard. And that's it. And you've got an amazing motor. Adrian Newey, he pioneer of ground effect back when it first kind of came about in F1 in the 80s, and I'm sure he was around like that early stage anyway. Pretty sure he was. And he's absolutely knocked it out of the park here, and that car just looks absolute planted and absolute spot on. Yeah, I mean, look, I want to see a championship. I don't want to see anyone dominating. I didn't want to see Mercedes dominating for the 7 years that they walked the championship. Sure, there was a couple of seasons where Ferrari got close, and obviously, 2021 was certainly a fight with Red Bull for sure. But to see that convincing a performance that early doors is certainly concerning from a title excitement challenge point of view for sure. Because my expectations were high for 2023, and I think, when you look through the whole field, but there's nothing quite like a fight at the front. You need that fight at the front, because that's what everyone's going for. And, it looks like it's looking good for Max. And you know what? Like, I put this on Twitter, like, Checo's delta to Max in qualifying, Q1 it was 1.5 tenths, Q2 it was 2.5 tenths, and Q3 it was less than 1.5 tenths. So Based off what we've seen in qualifying so far, Checo has seemingly closed that gap somewhat. Now, will that retain over the course of the season? We'll see. If he can keep it within a few tenths in qualifying and keep this kind of, 10 seconds or so off Max in race, then there's no reason why they'd change him. There's no reason why they'd swap a Ricciardo in or swap and get a Norris and bring him in. Why would they do that? That's just going to, destabilise the team. If Checo can keep doing a job exactly as he did this weekend, then he's got that seat for as long as he wants it, I think. But yeah. We will see. We shall see. But hopefully, it's a little bit more of a battle this year. Like, Bahrain's one race. Again, it's high tyre deg. There's a lot more to come. Right, okay, cool. I think we are... They're the W's and L's, just to reflect on that briefly. There's my fantasy league. Not great this weekend. Could have been worse, could have been better. Also, Racing Chocks, 10% off if you want to buy your own. I've got one pack of these left, actually. These little pink and blue helmets we got made for Aldas and Tommo Live. I've got this discount code till like the end of March, so... It's not sponsored, by the way. It's just I just wanted to support them because they hooked us up with these little helmets for our live event. Look at that. Tommo F1 pink helmet. This should be my merch. Well, no, could actually sell them, couldn't I? Do a little collab with them and do some helmets, do some lids. But yeah, there we go. Done. We are finished. Oh, roll intro one final time. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for watching. Like the stream. And subscribe to the channel. Make sure you subscribe. I'm sure you are subscribed, but double check, make sure you are. If you're audio only, 5 stars, Apple Podcast, Spotify, Pixo, Squarespace, Tesco.com, all of that stuff. Sorry, well, Super Zav, you've just joined, but this is going to live as a VOD on YouTube, and you can also listen to this as a podcast, and I'll upload that within like the next hour, maybe. You're asking for Minton. Shall I go get? I'll get Minton. I'll get Minton. He's going to be sleeping in bed, so I'll roll intro one more time because my intro's sick. Look at that. Wait. This dog would sleep forever if I allowed it. Here he is. The sleepy chien. Are you a sleepy sausage? Look at him. If you're audio only, you are kind of missing out on this bit. But this is right at the end of the YouTube video, so, Hey, boy. Look at him. He literally looks well chilled out, doesn't he? Have you been a kip? Have you been a kip, mate? He can barely keep his eyes open, man. It's 1:15 in the afternoon. What are you playing at? I'll take you for a walk after this, actually. Right. Say bye to all your adoring fans. There we go. Goodbye. Goodbye. You gonna yawn? One more yawn? No? Oh, bless you. You're so tired, mate. Good boy. Right, down there. That's a wrap, everyone. Thank you all for coming. Take your, what am I even saying? Take your time with your day. Be good, be happy, be well, be safe, be kind, drink fluids, water ideally. And I'll see you maybe Wednesday for the upload. Might be Thursday for the next video on the Tommo YouTube channel. Cheers, everyone. Ciao, adios. I'm done.